Kaylara Venn had worked on the starship Starward Drift for 3 years. She was a Telvari, a species known across the galaxy for their ability to read minds. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were large and silver. She stood taller than most humans and moved with a quiet grace that made others notice her. But Kaylara did not like reading minds. It was against galactic law to enter someone's thoughts without permission. More than that, it felt wrong to her. Minds were private places. They held secrets, fears, and memories that belonged only to their owners. She had learned long ago to keep her mental walls up and her abilities locked away. Most species had thoughts that leaked out like radio signals. If Kaylara was not careful, she would catch pieces of their thinking without meaning to. But humans were different. Their brains were strange and dense. Their thoughts stayed locked inside their skulls like water in a sealed container. No Telvari had ever managed to read a human mind clearly. It was one of the great mysteries of the galaxy. This was why Kaylara never worried about her mental shields when she was around humans. There was no need. Their minds were silent to her. The Starward Drift was a cargo ship. It carried supplies and equipment between distant star systems. The crew was mixed, with beings from a dozen different worlds. They worked together, ate together, and sometimes argued together. It was a normal ship with a normal mission. Ethan Cole was the maintenance engineer. He was a human male in his middle years, with short brown hair and eyes the color of Earth's oceans. He was not tall or strong. He did not speak much or laugh often. He simply worked. Every day, Ethan woke early and checked the ship's systems. He fixed broken pipes. He replaced worn cables. He crawled into dark spaces that others avoided. When something went wrong, he was always the first to respond. When something went right, he never took credit. The other crew members did not think much about him. He was just the quiet human who kept the lights on and the air flowing. He ate his meals alone in a corner of the dining hall. He never joined the games or the conversations. He was there, but he was also somehow invisible. Kaylara had noticed him, of course. She noticed everyone. But she had never spoken more than a few words to him. He seemed like a man who preferred silence, and she respected that everything changed on a day that started like any other. Kaylara was walking through the lower deck, heading to the storage area to check on some scientific samples. The ship hummed around her with its usual sounds. Metal creaked, engines pulsed. Somewhere far away, someone was playing music. Then the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed along the walls. A voice announced that there was a critical failure in the reactor room. The temperature in that section was rising fast. Radiation levels were climbing. Lara felt her heart pound. The reactor room was close. Too close. If the reactor exploded, this entire section of the ship would be destroyed. She should have run away. That was the smart thing to do. But something made her run toward the danger instead. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was curiosity. She did not know. The door to the reactor room was open. Smoke poured out in thick gray clouds. The heat hit her face like a slap. She could barely see through the haze, but she could make out a figure inside. It was Ethan. He was on his knees beside a massive pipe that had cracked open. Bright blue coolant sprayed everywhere. The pipe was supposed to keep the reactor from overheating, but now it was broken. Without that coolant, the reactor would melt down in minutes. Ethan had both hands wrapped around the crack in the pipe. He was holding it together with nothing but his grip. His fingers were bleeding. His face was twisted with pain. Sweat ran down his forehead and dripped onto the floor. The radiation warnings flashed red. The numbers on the screen climbed higher and higher. Kaylara knew what that meant. He was absorbing a lethal dose. Every second he stayed in there brought him closer to death. But he did not let go. She stood in the doorway, frozen. She wanted to help, but she did not know how. The heat was too strong. The radiation was too high. If she went in there, she would die too. Ethan looked up and saw her. For one moment, their eyes met. He did not speak. He did not ask for help. He just kept holding the pipe, his bloody hand shaking with effort. And then something happened that should have been impossible. Lara's mental shields dropped. The shock and the fear and the smoke had broken her concentration. Her mind reached out without her permission, searching for something to hold on to. And she heard his thoughts. The words were clear and sharp, like a voice speaking directly into her brain. This had never happened with a human before. Their minds were supposed to be silent, but his was not. For just 1 second, his wall came down too. She heard him think, just a little longer. Keep her safe. She does not know. She can never know. Then the moment passed. His mind went silent again, locked behind that strange human barrier. He let out a long breath and collapsed onto the floor. Lara screamed for help. Other crew members came running. They pulled Ethan out of the reactor room and sealed the door. Emergency systems kicked in and flooded the chamber with coolant. The alarm stopped. The danger passed. The medics took Ethan away on a stretcher. He was unconscious, his hands wrapped in white bandages that were already turning red. They said his radiation exposure was severe. They said most beings would have died from half that amount. But humans were stubborn. Their bodies fought death in ways that other species could not understand. Lara stood in the hallway and watched them carry him away. Her mind was spinning. She could not stop thinking about what she had heard. Keep her safe. She does not know. Who was he talking about? Who was her? And what did she not know? She looked down at her own hands. They were shaking. She had read a human's mind. She had done the impossible. And now she had a mystery that she could not ignore. Something was wrong. Something was hidden. And Ethan Cole was at the center of it. She did not know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. The quiet engineer with the tired eyes had secrets. And Lara was going to find out what they were. No matter what it took. 3 days passed before Ethan woke up. Lara visited the medical bay every day. She told herself she was just checking on a crew member. That was normal. That was what good colleagues did. But deep inside, she knew the real reason. She needed answers. The medics were amazed that Ethan survived. They said his body had absorbed enough radiation to kill 3 Telvari. His hands had been burned so badly that they needed to regrow the skin. His lungs had been damaged by the smoke. Any other being would have died on that floor. But Ethan Cole was human. And humans did not die easily. When he finally opened his eyes, Lara was sitting in a chair beside his bed. He looked at her with confusion. His voice was rough and weak. What happened? He asked. You saved the ship, she said. The reactor would have exploded. You held the coolant pipe together until help arrived. He nodded slowly, like this information did not surprise him. He looked down at his bandaged hands and said nothing. Lara watched his face. She searched for any sign of the thoughts she had heard. But his expression was empty. He was just a tired man in a hospital bed. Why did you do it? She asked. He shrugged. Someone had to. You almost died. Almost is not the same as actually dying. She wanted to push harder. She wanted to ask him about the words she had heard in his mind. But she could not tell him that she had read his thoughts. That was a crime. That was a violation. He would never trust her again if he knew. So she stayed quiet. She watched him close his eyes and fall back to sleep. And she decided to find the truth another way. Over the next 2 weeks, Lara began her investigation. She started with the ship's maintenance logs. Every repair, every inspection, every system check was recorded in the computer. She read through months of reports, looking for patterns. What she found made her stomach turn cold. Ethan Cole had been busy, very busy. He had performed hundreds of repairs that were not assigned to him. He had fixed problems before they were reported. He had worked extra shifts without asking for pay. And almost every single repair had one thing in common. They protected her section of the ship. A broken air filter near her quarters. A faulty power line that fed her laboratory. A cracked support beam above her sleeping area. A water pipe with a slow leak that would have burst in days. All of these problems had been fixed by Ethan, often in the middle of the night, often without telling anyone. Laura felt her hands tremble as she read the logs. This could not be a coincidence. There were hundreds of crew members on this ship. There were dozens of sections that needed maintenance. But Ethan had focused on hers. She dug deeper. She pulled security footage from the past year. She watched hours of recordings, searching for Ethan's face. She saw him working in hallways she walked through every day. She saw him checking equipment outside her door. She saw him eating his meals in places where he could watch the entrance to her section. He was always there, always watching, always protecting, and she had never noticed. One recording stood out. It was from 3 months ago. A cargo loader had malfunctioned in the shuttle bay. The machine had gone wild, swinging its heavy arms in dangerous arcs. The footage showed Ethan running toward it instead of away. He had jumped onto the machine and ripped out its power core with his bare hands. The loader had crashed to the ground, inches away from a shuttle. Her shuttle, the one she used for scientific expeditions. If the loader had hit that shuttle, it would have exploded. The fuel inside would have killed everyone nearby. And Kylara had been scheduled to board that shuttle 10 minutes later. She sat back in her chair and stared at the screen. Her mind was racing. Why was this human protecting her? What did she mean to him? They had barely spoken. They did not know each other. She was just another alien on a ship full of aliens. But he had been guarding her like she was the most important person in the universe. She needed to confront him. She needed to hear the truth from his own mouth. She found him in the medical bay, sitting up in bed and reading a technical manual. His hands were still bandaged, but he seemed stronger than before. Color had returned to his face. He looked up when she entered. His expression did not change. He just watched her with those tired blue eyes. "I know what you have been doing," Kylara said. Ethan said nothing. "I checked the maintenance logs. I watched the security footage. You have been protecting my section of the ship for over a year. You have fixed problems I did not even know existed. You have put yourself in danger again and again." She stepped closer. Why? For a long moment, he was silent. He looked down at his bandaged hands. He seemed to be thinking about something far away. "You remind me of someone," he finally said. "Who?" "Someone I could not save." The words hung in the air like smoke. Kylara felt a strange pain in her chest. She did not understand what he meant, but she could feel the weight of those words. There was grief in his voice. There was guilt. There was something broken that had never healed. "I am not her," Kylara said softly. "Whoever she was, I am not her." Ethan looked up. His eyes met hers. For one moment, she saw something deep inside him. It was sadness. It was loneliness. It was a wound that had been bleeding for years. "I know," he said. "But you are still worth protecting." Kylara did not know what to say. She stood there in silence, watching this strange human who had given so much for someone he barely knew. She wanted to understand him. She wanted to know his story. She wanted to know who he had lost and why it still hurt so much. But she also knew that some wounds took time to open. Some truths could not be forced. If she pushed too hard, he would close up like a shell dot, so she sat down in the chair beside his bed. She did not speak. She just stayed with him. And for the first time since she had known him, Ethan Cole did not seem quite so alone. Ethan did not want to talk about his past. Every time Kylara asked, he changed the subject or went quiet. He was like a locked door with no key. But Kylara was patient. She visited him in the medical bay every day. She brought him food from the dining hall. She sat with him while he read his technical manuals. She did not push. She did not demand. She simply stayed. And slowly, like ice melting in spring, Ethan began to open up. It started with small things. He told her about Earth, the human homeworld. He described the blue oceans and the green forests and the cities that stretched toward the sky. He talked about the food his mother used to cook and the music his father used to play. He smiled when he remembered these things, but his smile was always touched with sadness. Then one evening, he told her about Lily. "She was my sister," Ethan said. His voice was soft. 5 years younger than me. She had red hair like our grandmother and a laugh that could fill a whole room. Kylara listened in silence. She could see the pain on his face, but she did not interrupt. Lily was brilliant, he continued. She became a xenobiologist. Do you know what that is? It is someone who studies alien life. She loved learning about other species. She learned their languages. She read their books. She wanted to understand them. What species did she study? Kylara asked. Ethan looked at her. His eyes were heavy with memory. Yours, he said. She studied the Telvari. Kylara felt her breath catch. She had not expected that. Lily was fascinated by your people, Ethan said. She said the Telvari were the most beautiful culture in the galaxy. She learned your language. She memorized your poetry. She even practiced moving like you, so she could show proper respect when she finally met one of you in person. He paused and looked down at his hands. She never got the chance. The silence that followed was heavy. Kylara waited. She knew there was more. She could feel it coming like a storm on the horizon. We were on a colony ship called the New Horizon, Ethan said. 3,000 people heading to a new world. Families, children, scientists like Lily, engineers like me. We were supposed to build a new home on the frontier. His voice grew harder. Raiders found us 6 months into the journey. They came out of nowhere. Their ships were fast and their weapons were strong. Our captain tried to run, but we were not a warship. We did not have the speed to escape. Kylara felt cold. She knew how these stories ended. She had heard them before. I was on duty in the engine room when the attack started, Ethan said. The raiders boarded us from 3 directions. They were not interested in cargo. They wanted hostages, living beings they could sell on the black market. He closed his eyes. I tried to keep the power running. If I could keep the shields up, maybe help would come. If I could keep the engines working, maybe we could jump to hyperspace. I worked as fast as I could. I fixed everything that broke. I kept the ship alive. His hands tightened into fists. But I was too slow. The hull breached in the civilian section. The section where Lily was. Kylara felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away, but more came. 800 people died in that breach, Ethan said. Lily was one of them. She was 23 years old. She had never hurt anyone in her life. She just wanted to learn about the stars and the beings who lived among them. He opened his eyes and looked at Kylara. His gaze was empty. I found her body after the attack was over. She was still holding a book about your people. A Telvari poetry collection. She had been reading it when the hull opened. Kylara could not speak. The grief in his voice was too heavy. It pressed down on her like a weight. I should have been faster, Ethan said. I should have worked harder. I should have saved her. But I did not. I failed her, and she died because of it. That was not your fault, Kylara said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Maybe not, Ethan replied. but it feels like it is. Every single day. He looked out the window at the stars passing by. His face was pale in the dim light. After the attack, I could not stay in one place. I drifted from ship to ship, taking whatever work I could find. I did not care about anything. I was just waiting to die. He turned back to her. Then I came to this ship, and I saw you. Kailara felt her heart beat faster. The way you move, Ethan said. The way you speak. The way you tilt your head when you are thinking. Lily practiced all of those things. She watched recordings of Talvari for hours, trying to get them right. He shook his head slowly. You are not her. I know that. You are a different person with a different life. But when I see you, I remember why she loved your people so much. I remember the dreams she had of building bridges between species. I remember the future she wanted to create. His voice cracked. I could not save my sister. I could not protect the person I loved most. But maybe I can protect what she believed in. Maybe I can keep one small piece of her dream alive. Kailara reached out and took his hand. It was warm and rough and human. She held it gently, careful of the bandages. Lily sounds like she was a wonderful person, she said. She was the best person I ever knew, Ethan replied. Then I am honored, Kailara said. I am honored that you saw something in me that reminded you of her. And I am sorry. I am so sorry for your loss. Ethan said nothing, but he did not pull his hand away. He let her hold it, and for a long time, they sat together in the quiet of the medical bay. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, on a dead colony ship, a young woman had died with a book of alien poetry in her hands. And somewhere in here, her brother was still trying to keep her memory alive. Kailara understood now. She understood why he protected her. She understood the weight he carried. And she understood that some wounds never fully healed. But sometimes, having someone to share the pain made it a little easier to bear. 3 weeks passed. Ethan left the medical bay and returned to work. His hands had healed, though thin scars remained on his fingers. He went back to fixing pipes and checking systems, just like before. But things were different now. Kailara ate meals with him in the dining hall. They talked about small things at first. The weather on different planets. The taste of alien foods. The strange sounds the ship made at night. Then they talked about bigger things. Dreams and fears. Hopes and regrets. The meaning of life among the stars. They became friends. Real friends. And Kailara found herself looking forward to their conversations more than anything else. The other crew members noticed the change. They whispered about the quiet human and the tall Talvari who spent so much time together. Some thought it was strange. Some thought it was sweet. Most did not think about it at all. Then the raiders came. It happened without warning. One moment, the Starboard Drift was cruising through empty space. The next moment, alarms were screaming and the ship was shaking from weapons fire. 3 raider vessels had dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of them. Their hulls were black and covered with weapons. Their engines burned red like angry eyes. They moved fast, surrounding the cargo ship before it could run. Captain Voss tried to negotiate. He opened communications and offered to surrender the cargo. Take whatever you want, he said. Just let us go. The raiders laughed. They did not want cargo. Cargo was cheap. They wanted something more valuable. They wanted the Talvari. Telepaths fetched high prices on the black market. Criminal organizations used them to read minds during negotiations. Slavers sold them to wealthy buyers who wanted living lie detectors. A single Talvari could be worth more than an entire shipload of goods. The Starboard Drift had 14 Talvari on board. 14 prizes waiting to be taken. The raiders boarded through the main airlock. They were armed with pulse rifles and shock grenades. They wore heavy armor and masks that hid their faces. They moved through the ship in groups of 4, kicking down doors and dragging people into the hallways. Lara hid in a storage room on the lower deck. She could hear screaming in the distance. She could hear boots stomping and weapons firing. She pressed herself against the wall and tried not to breathe. The door burst open. 2 raiders stepped inside, their rifles raised. They saw her silver eyes and pale blue skin. They smiled behind their masks. "Found one," the first raider said. "Pretty thing. She will sell for a fortune." Pinara backed away until she hit the wall. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. She thought about fighting, but her people were not warriors. Her body was weak. Her only weapon was her mind, and these raiders wore helmets that blocked telepathy. The second raider reached for her arm. Then the lights went out. The ship plunged into total darkness. The raiders cursed and fumbled for their flashlights. But before they could find them, something happened. The emergency bulkhead slammed down from the ceiling. It hit the first raider on the head and knocked him to the floor. The second raider spun around, but the door behind him sealed shut with a heavy clang. He was trapped. A voice came through the ship's speakers. It was calm and quiet, but Lara recognized it immediately. "Attention, raiders," Ethan said. "You have made a mistake." In the engineering bay, Ethan Cole stood at the main control panel. His fingers moved across the screens with practiced speed. He had sealed himself inside the heart of the ship, surrounded by generators and power conduits. The raiders could not reach him. The doors were locked. The walls were reinforced. And from here, he controlled everything. "You think this ship is helpless," Ethan continued. "You think we are just cargo haulers. You think we will surrender and let you take what you want." He pressed a button. In Section 7, an air vent opened and flooded a raider squad with sleeping gas. They dropped like stones. "You are wrong." He pressed another button. In Section 12, the artificial gravity reversed. Raiders floated into the air, tumbling and spinning. Their weapons fired uselessly at the ceiling. "This ship is my home. These people are my family. And you are not taking anyone." The raider commander screamed orders into his communicator. But the signals were jammed. Ethan had cut all their communications. They could not coordinate. They could not call for help. They were blind and deaf and alone. Ethan worked quickly. He sealed corridors and opened others, herding the raiders like animals. He vented atmosphere in sections they controlled, forcing them to retreat. He overloaded power conduits near their positions, sending sparks and flames that made them scatter. The ship itself became a weapon. And Ethan was the one pulling the trigger. Lara found her way through the dark hallways. Emergency lights flickered on and off, showing glimpses of fallen raiders. She stepped over their bodies and kept moving toward engineering. She had to find Ethan. She had to help him. When she reached the engineering bay, she found the door open. Ethan was standing at the controls, his face lit by dozens of screens. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. His shirt was torn, but he was smiling. "The raider ships are still docked to our hull," he said. "Their main crew is still inside." Lara understood. "You are going to open the airlock." "Yes, they will die." Ethan's smile faded. His eyes grew cold. "They were going to sell you," he said. "They were going to put chains on your people and auction them like animals. They have done this before. They will do it again." He turned back to the controls. "Not this time." He pressed the button. The airlocks on the raider docking collars opened all at once. The explosive decompression ripped through the connecting tunnels. Raiders were sucked out into the void. Their ships broke free and tumbled away into space, crippled and leaking air. The attack was over. The Telvari were safe. Ethan stood at the controls, his chest heaving. The screen showed the raider ships drifting away, dead and dark. He had done it. He had saved them all. Then his legs gave out and he fell to his knees. Lara ran to him. She caught him before he hit the floor. His body was shaking. His skin was cold. He looked up at her with tired eyes and smiled. "Told you," he said. "Worth protecting." And then he passed out in her arms. The Starboard Drift limped into port 3 days later. Half its systems were destroyed. Scorch marks covered the hull. The airlocks were bent and broken. But every single person on board was alive. News of the attack spread quickly. A cargo ship had defeated 3 raider vessels. A single human engineer had turned the ship into a weapon and saved 14 Telvari from slavery. It was the kind of story that people told in bars and shared on communication networks. Ethan Cole became famous overnight. Reporters wanted to interview him. Military officers wanted to give him medals. Politicians wanted to shake his hand and take photographs. The Telvari government sent a formal message of thanks, praising him as a hero of their people. Ethan refused everything. He did not want attention. He did not want praise. He just wanted to be left alone. He requested a transfer to another ship, somewhere far away, somewhere quiet. The captain approved his request without argument. Lara found out about the transfer from a crew member in the dining hall. She felt her heart sink. She left her food on the table and ran to the docking bay. Ethan was there, standing beside a small transport shuttle. He had a single bag over his shoulder. His hands were still scarred from the reactor accident. His face looked tired, but there was something peaceful in his eyes. He turned when he heard her footsteps. "You were going to leave without saying goodbye," Lara said. "I am not good at goodbyes," Ethan replied. She walked up to him and stopped a few feet away. The docking bay was cold and empty. The shuttle hummed softly behind him. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something I should have told you weeks ago." Ethan waited. "The day of the reactor accident," Lara began. "When you were holding that pipe together, my mental shields dropped. Just for 1 second." She saw his body go still. "I heard your thoughts," she continued. "I did not mean to. It was an accident. But I heard you thinking about protecting me, about keeping me safe. You thought that I did not know, and that I could never know." Ethan said nothing. His face showed no expression. "That is why I started investigating," Lara said. "That is why I looked at the maintenance logs and the security footage. I was trying to understand what you meant." She took a deep breath. "I committed a crime. Reading a mind without permission is against galactic law. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to report me." Still, Ethan said nothing. He just looked at her with those tired blue eyes. "But I'm glad it happened," Lara said, "because it led me to you. It led me to understand who you are and what you have been through. And I am grateful for that. I am grateful for everything you have done for me." The silence stretched between them. Then Ethan let out a long breath. "I knew," he said. Lara blinked. "What?" "I knew you read my mind," Ethan said. "Humans can feel it when a telepath enters our thoughts. It is like a cold wind passing through. I felt it that day." Lara's eyes went wide. "You knew this whole time?" "Yes. Why did you not say anything?" Ethan shrugged. "Because it did not matter. You did not do it on purpose. And besides, I was too tired to be angry." He smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Also," he added, "I was a little relieved. I had been carrying that secret for a long time. It felt good to have someone else know, even if you learned it by accident." Lara did not know what to say. She had been so worried about his reaction. She had expected anger, betrayal, disgust. Instead, she got understanding. Humans really were strange. I have been thinking, Kylara said, about you and me. About Lily and what she believed in. Ethan's smile faded at the mention of his sister. Lily wanted to build bridges between species, Kylara continued. She wanted humans and Talvari to understand each other. She spent her whole life working toward that dream. She stepped closer, and now here we are. A human and a Talvari. We have shared meals together. We have shared stories together. We have protected each other. Is this not what she wanted? Is this not the bridge she was trying to build? Ethan looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were glistening. Maybe, he said softly. You do not have to carry her dream alone, Kylara said. You do not have to carry your guilt alone either. Lily is gone, but her dream can still live. It can live in both of us. She reached out and took his hand. It was warm and rough and human. She held it gently, the way she had held it in the medical bay. You protected me because I reminded you of what she loved, Kylara said. Now let me protect you. Let me help you heal. Ethan looked down at their joined hands. A single tear rolled down his cheek. I have been running for a long time, he said. I do not know how to stop. You do not have to stop, Kylara replied. But maybe you do not have to run alone. Ethan was quiet for a long time. The shuttle hummed behind him. The docking bay felt very far away. In this moment, there was only the two of them. Standing at the edge of something new. Finally, he spoke. Lily would have liked you, he said. I think I would have liked her too, Kylara replied. Ethan squeezed her hand. Then he let go and picked up his bag. I still need to leave, he said. I need time. I need space. I need to figure out who I am without all this weight on my shoulders. Kylara nodded. She understood. But maybe, Ethan continued, in a few months, when things are quieter, you could send me a message. Just to say hello. I would like that, Kylara said. He walked to the shuttle and paused at the door. He looked back at her one last time. Thank you, he said, for everything. Then he boarded the shuttle and flew into the stars. Kylara watched until the shuttle disappeared into the darkness. She stood alone in the empty docking bay, her hands still warm from his touch. When she returned to her quarters, she found something on her shelf. It was a small plant in a ceramic pot. The leaves were green and delicate. A note was tucked beside it. The note said, "This is called a forget-me-not. My sister used to grow them. Take care of it for me until I come back." Kylara held the pot in her hands and smiled. She placed it by the window where it could catch the starlight. She did not fully understand humans. Their minds were closed. Their emotions were strange. Their lives were so short compared to other species. But they loved with a fierce and burning intensity that defied all logic. They protected others not because they expected something in return, but because the act of protection was its own reward. They carried grief like armor and turned their pain into purpose. They built bridges across the void of space, one small kindness at a time. Kylara watered the plant and watched it grow. Every day, she thought about the quiet engineer with the tired eyes and the scarred hands. She thought about his sister, who had dreamed of understanding the stars. She thought about the bridge they had built between their two worlds, and she knew, deep in her heart, that one day he would come back. Some things were worth protecting. Some people were worth waiting for. And some dreams, once planted, never stopped growing.